about Bill. He was a superbly creative scientist whose excitement and enthusiasm really burst forth in this continuous stream, and it inspired everybody around him. I can only give a highlight or two about his technical achievements, because there are other things that I really need to talk about. During his 31 years at NIST, he developed and applied measurement techniques that are sensitive to the surfaces of materials, particularly looking at the atomic structure and magnetic structure of various films. Work he published in 1988 was the first data in what was to become a whole field of surfactants and epitaxy. And his developments were so significant, and it sounds very technical, but the developments were so significant that they were used to produce virtually all read heads in the world for magnetic data storage and computer hard disk drives. This disruptive technology kept the U.S. magnetic storage industry in the marketplace even 10 years after its initial introduction. He knew the science, he was creative with the science, but he really wanted to apply it in the most practical way to make an impact for the nation. And those applications are always based on very inspiring and creative science. He was well known around the world. He had an extraordinary number of collaborations, active and vital. He always maintained that he learned the most through his collaborations, or even just having people come to visit NIST to use some of his specialized equipment. Bill was so energetic, and he couldn't stay away from his work very long when he'd go to a conference. But he'd constantly have to call back to check on things in the lab, finding out what the results were, and coming up with new ideas for the next experiment. He was going to live, he was determined to live every day to its fullest, no question about it. And he did it with an energy that was mind-boggling. He owned his own airplane. He enjoyed taking friends from work out to lunch over on the eastern shore or one of the islands in Chesapeake Bay. But not only would he take you there, he would teach you how to fly the plane. He was very insistent on that. He was an extraordinary gardener. I truly thought he had a farm somewhere, but it was in his backyard of his suburban house. He brought in huge quantities of tomatoes and other vegetables and flowers for others around NIST, and we all appreciated so much. And as Catherine wrote to him a few years ago, in appreciation for enriching her life with daffodils, tulips, melons, tomatoes, and even pecans, she said, "You are a hard man to keep up with. What a boost for morale every time you appear in the office." And then, in his spare time, he prepared a world-class analysis of Shakespeare's Hamlet. And he was driven to do this. He was driven to make this play more accessible to young people, because his own kids having difficulties, and everyone having difficulties understanding all the intricacies of the play. He had a great sense of humor. He loved not Friday evening happy hours. He loved good beer, good company. But he would actually, in the last year, he would leave early. We always had to take off with early for the university of his grandson on the old landing that was Bill's greatest delight in the world. And it's true, he was so driven that he sort of drove us nuts. At times, all of us, with his pressure to get things done, get things ordered, get things prepared, or with his worry about whether he was doing good enough work and whether he was going to get it all done. But even as we were going crazy, even at those moments, I relished it all, every moment of being and working with Bill. It's the intensity and creativity and love of science just made it all a thrilling ride. Thank you.
My brother Bill loved his garden, and he approached his garden the way he approached everything else in his life, with zeal and passion. He grew Concord grapes that were sweet, but also tart. He grew mellow orange cantaloupe and green honeydews that tasted of nectar. He grew okra, compelled by his Virginia roots, no doubt. He grew tomatoes as big as his heart. Of course, no garden is complete without flowers, and he had an abundance of them as well. As his wife Natasha puts it, if it was in the catalog, he grew it. It meant so much to him to be able to give what's due to those who meant the most to him, his family, friends, and co-workers. And just as much as he desired to give, we appreciated his generosity. It was always a treat at our family reunions with each when he would bring his garden down, those luscious tomatoes, the tasty melons, the colorful zinnias. He sent a giant bouquet of fresh daffodils overnight when a family member was diagnosed with cancer. He planted not one or two lily bulbs for our father, but a huge number that everyone stopped to appreciate, remark on, and photograph when they bloom in such profusion in the spring. He brought our mother hundreds and hundreds of daffodils, tulips, tomatoes, as she says, enough to open a business. Bill loved his garden, I believe, for much the same reason he loved his work. And I have no doubt that he brought the same devotion to his work as he brought to his garden. One day, Bill brought me and my son to his lab. He showed us a colossal machine with lots of blinking lights and moving parts. My kids, of course, were thrilled. And Bill was like a kid, like a kid in a candy shop. The fruits of Bill's garden were fleeting, but the garden lives on. Natasha and the kids keep it growing. The fruits of Bill's science were not fleeting. One of my friends who's a physicist at Brookhaven Labs has regaled me in all of his stories about Bill's accomplishments. And one of Bill's colleagues recently Facebooked me to tell me how enormously indebted he was to Bill, how Bill had inspired his work, helped him land his first job, how Bill mentored not only him, but also mentored many other young scientists. As science increases in knowledge steadily, Bill's work will, I know, continue to spark future development. With only 2 minutes to speak, I chose to focus on Bill's garden. There were so many facets of Bill's life, so many things that he was fascinated by, immersed himself in, and became an expert on. Those of you who knew him well, you know this. Those of you who didn't know him will have to take my word. He was such an amazing person, and we